So just wanted to welcome Jon Covey. This is to my first ever podcast video chat thing. So welcome along, Jon.
Hey Dave, how you doing?
I'm really good. This is like really exciting for me. I guess with it being the first one, probably just give a little bit of background into kind of why I'm doing this, and I guess without being cheesy, I've kind of learned a lot over the years on sales and marketing and business, and I guess it's looking at that give to give and want to give back, and I've got my only expectation is no expectation. So in terms of how many people are going to watch it, how many people are going to listen to it, if one person, and that's not that's not either me or you rewatching it. So if one person watches it, then I'm good with that. And I just want to try and give as much back as I can. I've been very fortunate to work with some amazing people and learn a lot of, I guess, life skills and business skills from people. And if I can just give some of that back, then I'm cool. But brilliant. So I really appreciate you being like my first guinea pig, really, Jon. Probably never been referred to as a guinea pig before. But just kind of, do you want to just give us a bit of an intro about you, really? So who you are, sure, what you do, and I obviously know you as a as a sales and marketing coach and mentor, but just gives a bit of background, really.
Of course, yeah. So, well, I mean, if we go back to the start, we'll probably take quite a long time, but I'll do a squeeze version basically. So I think I've always had an entrepreneurial DNA about me, because Sylvie wants to join in as well. Always happens. I suppose there's always been a certain DNA of entrepreneur inside me, because from an early age, I used to wheel and deal in BMXs and skateboards, and even at school, I used to sell things at school, so much so that I got in trouble because I was selling more than the tuck shop. So I've always had that, and I dropped out of school at 14 because not because I didn't really necessarily enjoy school. I think I would, like most 14-year-olds, school was just a thing. It wasn't the thing for me, but it wasn't unpleasant, But I got a summer job, worked really hard, come from a family of hard workers, thought that you had to work hard if you wanted to achieve things in life. And so I went in and worked really hard. And I think that what I found as a 14-year-old is I was already looking for ways that I can make this business that I'm working for better. I'm saying, rather than doing this, maybe you should look at doing this. Why don't you try doing this? Why don't you look at this? And this business has been around for like 100 years. The last thing they wanted was a spotty 14-year-old telling them how to run their business and get better at processes. And I think that it kind of rubbed them the wrong way, so much so that a little after a year there, I got sacked. And I got really, really good at getting sacked, to be honest with you, from lots of different jobs, until I decided, what, I've had enough of getting sacked. I'm gonna be the one that sacks people instead. And just by fluke, I ended up working at a door-to-door sales business that really transformed and changed my life. It really made a big difference. And I often say, tongue in cheek, a lot of people go to India to try and find themselves. I found myself on a back street in Chesterfield knocking on doors selling gas and electricity.
How old was you then, Jon?
20 years old. So I started there when I was 20. I was married. I'd got a daughter. We'd got a mortgage. I'd got a car, usual kind of commitments. Probably a little bit early, because I was 20 years old quite early to probably do that. And I remember when I packed in my official job to go and work for a door-to-door sales business, commission only, doing sales, which is something that I'd never done as a career before. The wife wanted to divorce me, which she did in the end anyway. That's a different story.
We'll not go into that today.
We'll not go into that one, no. But no, I went in with this mindset that, who can I model? Who's the best salesperson in the business who I can learn from? Yeah. And I'm still connected to the guy to this day. There's a guy up in Newcastle, and he was doing 1,000, 1,500 quid a week in sales. This is 20 years ago, so yeah. Good money.
Big numbers.
Yeah. And I'm thinking, what? How's he doing it? So I phoned him up in Newcastle, and I phoned him and I says, listen, can we spend some time together? Can I hover what you're doing? Can I shadow what you're doing? Do you want to come down to see us? Can I go up to see you? Whatever it works. And they came down and they used to do road trips. And I just adapted everything that he did. I looked at how he worked, his ethics, his mentality, and I just modelled the stuff that he did. And before you knew it, I was doing the same. I was doing £1,000, 1,500 a week in sales, very easily as well. It just became so easy. Where I'd see other people out there literally running up and down streets, knocking on doors, and I'm sat on the phone playing Snake. You remember Snake on your phone?
Yeah.
I'm playing Snake on the phone till like 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I'd get out and knock on like 15 doors and do 5 sales. Just so easy. It comes so easy because I got the right mindset about it all. I'd not gone in there with a defeating attitude. I'd gone in there that I know I'm going to win.
Yeah. Do you think listening to, and I genuinely didn't know that, in terms of like your background, but I guess I grew up with a very similar background, I suppose. Like I was brought up on nothing wrong with this, not brought up on a council estate. My dad worked down the pit. My mum worked in a fish and chip shop. And when I was growing up, and I'm 42 now, but when I was kind of growing up, I remember things like the miners' strike very, very well. So, Dad was out of work. There were pickets on lines. It was a van used to come round and give us like bread and milk. It was a really, really stressful time. But when I'm speaking to people, the question I guess I've got is, do you think that with myself, I was very driven, and I often tell this story, and I kind of go, there's nothing wrong where you're raised, and I'm not trying to kind of suggest that I'm better than anybody that still lives on a council estate. That's absolutely not where I'm coming from. But I was so driven to not want that same life for me and for my children. Something inside me made me so driven and so determined to kind of metaphorically get out of that place. Do you think that that's the same with you? So do you think that you were so driven to make a difference, and that's why you're so good at what you did as a salesperson?
I think definitely it comes down to the hunger. Absolutely. I mean, very similar to yourself. I'm a council estate kid. I was brought up on Parson Cross, probably one of the worst areas in Yorkshire at one time. Parson Cross. But do you know what? Nothing against it. Loved it. Absolutely.
No,
as a kid,
agree, yeah.
The greatest place in the world to grow up was on a council estate. Absolutely. Just loved that. Would I want to live there now? No, I wouldn't.
No.
And I work very, very hard to ensure that I don't live there no more. Got nothing against people who choose to live there. My brother and some of my family still live in them areas. And you know what? They have a great lifestyle, and it's all about what you want out of your life. But to answer your question, yes, hunger, mate, 100%, every step of the way. Like, I want to achieve more. I want more, and I want to achieve more, and I've got to keep on fighting for that. Because for me, I think this is the thing. I think you have to understand you as an individual.
Yeah.
And I realize, for me, I get much more excited and driven by the fight and the climb than I do when I win.
Yes.
When I achieve, I appreciate it, and I enjoy that. But then I'm constantly looking like, where's the next battle? Like, what other mountain can I climb? Because I've got to keep on climbing. That's what keeps me excited and driven.
Yeah. And you're right. It's kind of, and I guess that can extend to other parts of life as well, not just around sales. But it's that buzz of getting that person to a point that they say to you, yes, I would like that from you. Or that's the thing. It's not the result, is it? It's not the, it's a £1 million deal or a 15 pence deal, whatever. It's just about getting that person to that point where they go, yeah, come on, let's kind of do business. And I guess I'm very much the same. So after that then, so you went to obviously you was door knocking sales, for want of a better word. What happened then? Where did you go then?
Do you know what? Like that, it was probably some of the greatest times of my life. I went and the beauty of the business, how that business was positioned, is you were self-employed you were employed on a self-employed basis, and basically they taught you how to run your own business. And so it wasn't like network marketing, but it had a very similar feel to multi-level marketing, network marketing, where you built your own team. So I started to build a team. I got good at sales. Then I started to get good at how you needed to recruit and build a team. So I'd then got 3 staff, then 5, then 15, then 20. And we were doing millions of pounds worth of deals every single year for the clients that we're working with, while earning football salaries. It was just insane. I bought an M3. This was a 60 grand car that was 3 months old when I bought it. We were rocking around with Hugo Boss suits and Mont Blanc pens, and money just lost all meaning because it just became so easy to make.
Yeah.
Now, I think that created a certain mindset for me, which was, money can be achieved very, very easy if you have the right attitude and the right mindset towards it. The thing that I see is the biggest issue, and this is the same with salespeople, is they start creating this seed of doubt. Will somebody want what I'm offering? Is it right for themselves? And what I always found with sales is there's generally 4 things that I find trip up a salesperson. And you'll probably be able to relate to this. I know it affects all of us. None of us are impervious to this. The very first one is that we don't want to get rejected.
Yep.
Because we like to feel a collective. We like to feel part of something, and being rejected stings. Doesn't feel nice to be rejected. So we try to do our best to not get rejected. So that means that we don't ask enough questions. We don't ask for the deal enough times. We don't follow up enough times because we don't want the rejection. Well, there's a name for salespeople that don't like rejections, and it's called being broke. and so what we need to do is, firstly, we need to understand that rejection is the game, and them no's take us into the destination of yes. And so I think that once you start to reposition the rejection and understand, well, actually, do you know what? There's a saying that says every no brings you closer to a yes. Once you start to really embrace that and understand that, I find that makes a huge shift for salespeople.
I agree. I think it's also, somebody once said to me in a sales capacity, no just don't mean no forever. It just means no now.
Yes.
So often,
acronym.
Yeah.
Next opportunity. I know.
Yeah, and often, I've worked with lots of salespeople in my 25 years, and I like you'd be surprised. Well, you probably wouldn't be surprised because it's kind of what we're talking about. But the amount of people where, for example, they'll get a no, and then it's like that prospect's dead to me. That customer's dead to me. It's like, no, it just means no now.
Just not now. Yeah,
just put it in the CRM and follow it up later and just kind of see where it goes. So,
100%.
but it's interesting how many people just kind of go no, and then they just just kind of kill it off.
The second thing is that they don't want to seem pushy.
Yeah.
Because again, we've been brought up to be nice, respectful people and be polite and pleasant, and don't badger people, don't pester people. So we feel uncomfortable chasing people up and pestering people when we know that actually people are really bad at making decisions, and they need pestering and following up and pushing to make a decision.
For sure. I tend to use the word, and I've used this since forever. And again, it's amazing what you kind of pick up off people. And I guess all my career I've been very good at being like a sponge and, picking up great ideas off people and putting my own spin on things. But it's been pushy, professionally aggressive. So, it's using that word professionally aggressive. It doesn't necessarily need to be pushy and be kind of over the top. But I think for me, there's a very fine line between kind of confidence and arrogance, and I'm absolutely not one of the arrogant salespeople. But I've never realised what's wrong with asking those direct questions. It's alien to me. Like somebody goes, I daren't ask for the order. Well, why? Very rarely is anybody just going to ring you up and give it you. Why would you be afraid to ask for the order? The other one I find is, strange. How many salespeople over my years have said to me, and I've gone, what's the budget? What is the budget? What budget have you got? I can't ask them that. How much do you spend on? In my world, it'd be how much you spend on printing a year. I can't ask them that. Why? What's the worst? What's the worst you're going to get? I'm not telling you. Sorry. Okay, cool. Sorry.
No, but you're absolutely right. I mean, like if you can try and find when you're selling to somebody, if you can try and find how they've bought before, have they bought something similar before? How did it make them feel? How much did they spend on it? What was the outcome? If you can try and get into that persona and that identity that they sit within when they're making buying decisions, it makes your positioning a lot easier. But being pushy, I often say to people, like, let's just change the word. Let's not use pushy. Let's use passion.
Yeah.
And say to people, and be honest with the prospect by saying to them, listen, please, I don't want you to confuse my passion with being pushy.
Yeah.
So do that. The third one is that they don't want to seem desperate.
The salesperson.
The salesperson.
Yeah.
And they'll use this as an excuse. Well, I can't chase him again because I don't want him to think I'm desperate.
Yeah.
Or they'll think we're desperate if we chase him again. I only spoke to him 6 months ago. They're going to think I'm desperate if I chase him again. You know, and it's that desperation that, again, you just need a reframe on. You know, like stop making desperation to be a bad thing. Tell them that you are desperate. I'm desperate to get my services into your business because I know that it'll make a difference. I'm desperate to get it in because I know it can help you.
Do you think, in terms of desperation, and I had this very conversation the other week with one of my team, and the situation that they were kind of in was they were kind of chasing up an order, and it was like it kind of felt like it was a bit desperate. So do you think desperation does show through? Like, do you believe it shows through? So if I am genuinely desperate because, I don't know, my targets are down or my boss is putting me under pressure or whatever, do you think that desperation comes through between a customer and a salesperson?
I think it shows through more to you than it does to the customer. I think that,
interesting.
You convince yourself that the customers are going to think that you're desperate more so than the customer looks at you thinking that you're desperate.
Right. Okay. Interesting way of looking at it. Yeah. Because I do hear that a lot. You know, I feel desperate, so therefore it's going to come through as desperate kind of thing. And
again, it's just because they're just associating the desperation as a negative phrase.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like no, it's the same. We were just talking about no a minute ago. Like no's being associated as a negative phrase. No's not a negative phrase. Like you said earlier on, it just means not now. No's not negative at all. It's just that we've, for all our life since being a youngster, we've been told no. Dave, John, stop. No. I got told no a lot as a kid. And so we've associated no as being negative, like desperation. You know, don't look desperate. I am desperate. I'm desperate because it's going to help you. I'm desperate because I'm building a business. And you know, I need the fuel, because if I don't have the cash coming in my business, I've got no oxygen. The business is gonna suffocate. So you know, be completely honest with yourself. Listen, I'm desperate, not just because I want my business to be able to flourish, but I'm desperate because I know it can help you.
Yeah.
And then the fourth thing is that they don't have belief in their product.
Okay.
They don't really believe that their product will solve the problem. They don't really believe their product is the best on the market. They don't really believe what they're selling.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, that's quite popular in a lot of people, is that especially in sales roles, in the lower end of the sales market as well.
Yeah, I mean, I guess particularly there, you might be thinking, I don't know, like you say, telesales, call center stuff. I don't know. I'm just picking one.
No, you're right.
Mobile phones or that kind of thing.
Absolutely.
But you know, I guess everybody has to start somewhere, in the same way that, you know, you was knocking on doors selling what you was doing. That low level entry, if you like, does, you know, I've some of the best salespeople that I've taken on, quite a few graduates in my past, and they have all been in call center environments, and I think it's where they earn their stripes, for want of a better word. It's interesting. No, so, you know, like one of the things that I love kind of understanding how different people do different things, and what might work for me, you know, might not work for you, in different sectors. And I'm a people person very much, and I take on board, like I said, stuff that we learn, stuff that we come across. And one of the things that I keep hearing about at the moment is, you know, sales, and how is sales changing. And, you know, there's all sorts of, you know, blogs or podcasts and books you can read in terms of, you know, particularly in our world, which is obviously printing, is like, you know, is the typical thing that keeps coming up is like, is printing dead? And, you know, I go, well, no, it's not dead, but the way that people use it will change. One of the things that, obviously, in the similar situation, in terms of, you know, the deadness or the end of that, you know, death of a salesman, for want of a better word, do you think, like, there are lots of different ways that people sell, and I guess there's no right and there's no wrong. It's just it's whatever gets results. For some people, you know, phone. For people, you know, for like you, years and years ago, knocking on doors. Some people sell never picking up a phone, and you'll use different social channels. So there's lots of different things. But do you think the traditional salesperson, and when let's not let's not cast our net too wide, but if we took, like, if I said to you a traditional salesperson, that the perception, if somebody said to me, what is a traditional salesperson? I would say that traditional salesperson is somebody that researches his leads via the internet or a top 500, company book, drives around an industrial estate like we used to do in the old days, picking up compliment slips, dropping business cards off, this, that, and the other. Do a tiny bit of research on the prospect. They'll send them an email or they'll send them a letter with a brochure, and then they'll follow it up like traditionally. Do you think that, like, particularly in this time as well, and when I say this time, I'm talking COVID time, people working from home. Do you think that traditional salesperson has had it, has gone? Like there's no place in the world for anybody doing it traditionally like that anymore?
I think that a salesperson is always going to be required, because if you don't have a salesperson, you've got order takers. And I think there's a huge confusion between what a salesperson is and so much so that people don't even like the title, do they? People will avoid it at all costs. They'll put business development manager, or business development executive, or they'll come up with some BS title when reality is you're a salesperson. And a salesperson is. I think the biggest problem that we've got about this is that you look at any film where the con artist is involved, and the con artist is always a fast talking, salesperson, and so it's got a bad rep of being associated with con artists and dodgy dealings. When the reality is a salesperson really is just a problem solver.
Yes.
And so if we don't have salespeople, well, everything stops. The entire industry stops, doesn't it? If no one's selling anything and all we're doing is taking orders, then business is not going to thrive or flourish, is it? You know yourself. If you sat back and wait for orders to come in, you would get some because you've built a reputation, and your marketing will support you to a certain degree. But unless you're chasing and selling and following up, your revenue is going to actually just tank, and you're probably going to go out of business.
Yeah.
So regardless of what technology we've got, whether it's social media, video, or some future, augmented reality that we might live in the future, there's always going to be a need for communication and a transaction.
Yes.
And that's never going to change. We're always going to have an issue. What's always going to need a problem solving, and we're always going to need someone to do that for us. Whether it's a computer system that does it, it's still a transaction. And that's never going to change. And I think that's the biggest problem that I've seen in 20 years of meeting people. I network a lot. Not at the minute, obviously. We're kind of still locked down to a certain degree, which is we don't know what's going on, whether it's lifting, whether it's loosening, whether it's getting tight. But like I network a lot, and one of the things that really, really kind of grates on me that I've seen for the last 2 decades is people going networking saying, don't sell to the room, sell through the room. Networking is about building relationships. And I get that. I understand that completely. But it's about building business relationships. We're not looking at building best friends here. We're building business relationships. And business relationships are transactional.
Yes.
And so we've got to understand that a part of having a business relationship is there have to be a transaction involved somewhere. And that means we're going to speak on the phone, on email, on chat, messenger, however it is. But I'm going to say, hey, Dave, what issues have you got going on right now? Well, John, do you know what? It's the situation that we have right now is that X, Y, and Z's happening. Right, Dave, what problem is that presenting for you? Well, it means we can't grow, we can't whatever, reinvest, whatever it is. Right, if this problem is not solved, what implication is this going to have on your business?
For sure. And that method that you're using there has been a method that I've certainly used like forever, and a lot of salespeople that I've kind of mentored. And I guess what you've got to do there is make that problem as big as possible. That problem that you see there, you've got to make that to be as big as possible. And the only way that they're going to kind of stop that from happening is by using you or your services, and obviously you've got to match that answer to solve that problem, haven't you?
Absolutely.
And it's amazing where I've been in meetings with salespeople, and literally when I first start working with a sales team, it's dead basic, but we almost like created this this invisible form. And as you're going through that meeting, you're asking those questions and you're looking at current systems and methods, opportunities, what might happen in the future to impact on, you know, the amount that they buy of this product, whatever it is that you're selling. And it's like really interesting that that method that you're talking about there, that's just been around forever, but people still use it today.
And it works.
People still use it.
Do you know the thing that people struggle with, what I see all the time as well, is that they don't have a script. Nobody's following a script. So they're freestyling. And there's two types of salesperson. There's the one that wants a script, and then there's the one that doesn't. And I can guarantee, I've not got any research on this, but I guarantee I'll put my own money on the line on this one. But I can guarantee anyone that's using a script gets better results than anyone that's not.
Yeah.
Because they're prepared. Do you know, if Dave turns around to me and says, do you know what, John, this sounds great, but I'm going to need to speak to somebody about it. If I've not got a script or I'm very well tuned, I'll just turn around and say, all right, Dave, when can we touch base?
Yeah.
Whereas if I've got a script, I'm going to say, right, Dave, okay, cool. Who's it you need to speak to? Well, I've got to speak to my partner. Right, Dave, what do you think they're going to say?
Yeah.
Well, they'll probably say that it's a bit expensive. Right. And do you believe it's expensive?
Yeah. It's kind of like, you know, ask that those upfront questions that I've asked all my life that some people just don't want to ask. You know, who's the decision maker? You know, what is the decision making process? Like, you know, are you an organization that buys on price every single time, or are you looking at the quality of the product, the speed, the turnaround of the product? You've got all these decision making options. What is it that you yourself, what's important to you? You know, things like, what are your credit terms? You know, why would you not? So many people, like, they'll ask about credit terms, and then so you'll have a sales guy, he'll go out and he'll win an order, he'll come back and the guy will go, yeah, you're in 120 days. 120 days? Why would I give you 120 days worth of credit? Why did you not? If you'd have asked that question at our first meeting 3 months ago, we wouldn't even be talking now. You know, so it is, I do agree with you, John, and it's like, it's music to my ears, and and please don't take this the wrong way. And I think we've had this conversation before, but the way that you kind of work and the space that you're in, that it's what I love about what you do and what you teach, for want of a better word, is that common sense, not simple, but common sense approach. And it's about asking those questions, but I guess the other skill is knowing what to, not just having the answers, but how do you turn those answers into the point where you're at that meeting and you're in front of somebody and somebody goes, right, I know they base the decision on price first and foremost. I know they take 90 days. I know that they've had a previous problem in the past. Right, what do I now do with that information? And that's kind of getting into like the close, I guess, because I've worked with so many different salespeople that are good information gatherers, as I call it. And you could use that first meeting, I don't know, people use that word discovery meeting, don't they? You know, it's that first meeting, it's a discovery meeting or a discovery call. I'm going to come back with a shitload of information, but then what? And again, I've worked with so many salespeople that are good at getting that information, but they don't know what to do with it. You know, that close, if you like, that summing it up and doing something with it. And I mean, is that stuff that you've come across all the time?
All the time, Dave. Yeah, I mean, what kind of baffles me, and well, it don't baffle me because I'm completely aware of it, but it's still, it's just common. It should be common sense. And you're right in what you're saying there. Is simple's the right word to use, by the way. I want to simplify I don't want anything to be complicated. No. Do you know, like, why would we want to overcomplicate something that can be so simple? Do you know?
Yeah.
So yeah, one of the things that I do is I look at how we can make things really easy, really simple. Now, that doesn't mean it's going to be necessarily easy to execute, but it should be simple to execute.
Yeah.
So it's always that. But if you're going to go and see a client, why would you not take a contract with you?
Yeah.
All right. You might not know what they want at that moment in time, but when you're there, why not try and get the deal tied up there and then? Take the contract. Let's get this done.
Yeah.
Rather than, adding an extra, like, the financial services industry is terrible for this. They'll go and have 15 different meetings before they get a deal done. And it's like, why are you doing that? Go and have a meeting, talk about what you can do, sign a contract, done.
Yeah.
Like, just speed up the process. You go and buy a car. What happens? You go and buy a car. You go to a showroom. You look at the car that you want to buy. The salesman comes over. He's like, "Do you want to take it out for a test drive?" It's like, "No, I want to buy it." Do you know? I don't want to test drive it. You want to test drive it. I just want to buy it.
Yeah.
And so we make things complicated that doesn't need to be complicated. Don't take the contract. Go with an idea. Go with a pitch. Go with the deal.
Do you think a big problem with that though is one of the reasons why that happens a lot is because we don't set ourselves objectives before we even have that meeting.
100%.
So if we set that objective, like, what do I want to get out of this? Well, I want to get some quote requests, or I want to get the guy on board as a client. Do you think that, like you just said, that's the big problem, because we don't set those objectives?
Yeah, they don't have, and here's another like an issue is people get a lead given to them and they don't assign a price to it. So, for example, you might get a referral. You don't know what that business is just yet, by the way. You might have someone's referred you and they say, "Hey, Dave, I've got a contact. They're looking at some print work. I've passed them your details. Can you give them a shout?" Now, what you tend to do, if you're doing it right, you put it in your CRM, you put it as an opportunity so you never miss it. Now, the issue that I see there is people put it in a CRM and they'll leave the price of it wide open. Now, you'll know as well as me, if there's no price assigned to it, you've got nothing to close.
No.
So, all right, you might not know what it is that they want right now, but at least put something that you want.
Yes.
So like you've done your recon, you looked at who they are, looked at what it is, you've got an idea about what it is, then you go in and you say, right, okay, let's find what's going on. So you're prepared.
Yeah.
And now you've got a price.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's a big thing, is like if people just set those objectives and set those tasks, I do genuinely think that the results would speed up that process. And you're right, it is. One thing another thing that interests me about salespeople, and I reckon probably months ago we kind of talked about this before, and I think it's really interesting. Like, as a salesperson, do you think that you can be taught to be a good salesperson, or do you think, like, it's a bit cheesy, but you're born one? Like almost, it's like if you're a footballer, are you born a great sports person, or can you be trained to be a great sports person? Where do you sit with that?
I believe we're all everything that we are is learned. Nothing's given to us as a natural gift. I think it's learned. Like, football's a good example. I was speaking with CK actually about this quite recently, and I said that you look at a footballer, who's one of the greatest footballers? You say Cristiano Ronaldo.
Yeah.
So you say he's one of the greatest footballers. Now, you could argue that he's been gifted with that talent. Or you could look at it a different way. You could say, well, do you know what? He was born into a family that loved football. His dad took him to games since he was born. He's watched football. He's talked football. All he's ever done is done football. He started kicking the football about when he was 18 months old, and he's never stopped. By the time he got to 10, he'd got enough skill and time in the game that gift just became alive because it was learned.
Yeah.
So is it a gift, or is it just that they've practiced and practiced and practiced and practiced and practiced, and they've turned it on?
Yeah, and I think the thing about that particular individual is that, a lot of people might just see him like taking the piss and showboating and having such a like glamorous life, but what they don't see is all the effort and the work and the after hours stuff that he puts in. When everybody's gone home, he's still there behind, practicing his craft and putting his effort in.
And this follows people throughout everything that they do. You look at Tiger Woods. Like, Tiger Woods, what was he, 10 years old? His dad gave him a golf club. He practiced. Now, you could argue and say, oh, he's been gifted with the ability to be able to play golf. Or you could argue that actually he's not been gifted with it at all. He's just learned over a long period of time how to be a practitioner of that game.
Yes.
So you relate that back to sales. Are you born a salesperson? I don't believe you are. I believe you're made a salesperson.
Yeah. I think, no, I do agree with you. I think going back to what we talked about, about both our backgrounds and growing up where we kind of grew up, I do believe, though, that there's probably, particularly my own example, where there's something inside you that drives you to want to be better, to want to be better at what you do and always be striving to that hunger. I think you're born with the hunger, if that, or circumstances give you the hunger. It's that learnt behavior, like you say. But I do think that some of the best salespeople that I've ever met, they've got that energy and that the dynamic, and they've got that hunger and that passion, which is the word that you used earlier. I think that's something that, in my opinion, can't be taught. You know, you've got to have that like rawness, I think, inside you. But I do think that the other stuff, in terms of, don't matter what you apply that to, I think that can be taught, like you say, and it just come from practice, practice, practice. But I genuinely believe you've got to have something inside you that just gives you that energy and that enthusiasm.
Does that fire in your belly come from you?
That's the word, fire in your belly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
And I often question this, Dave, because like I'm from a family of, you know, quite a big family. You know, I've got 3 brothers and a sister.
Yeah.
And I'm the I'm the lone wolf when it comes to, you know, entrepreneurship. You know, none of them do their own thing. None of them, you know, run their own business. None of them's got a drive like me. None of them's got and I'm the youngest.
Yeah.
And I'm the youngest. Now, you could argue that is that a DNA that I've been born with? Is that, you know, a gift I've been given? And maybe it is. Or is it the fact that as a kid, you know, they was all older. I was left on my own. I spent time with people that was older than me. I watched Beverly Hills Cop as a kid, and so Eddie Murphy being a smooth talking, you know, drifter that got what he wanted, and I watched them kind of things like that, and that embedded into me and formed me into a way that thought, you know what, I want more things. I want a bigger house, a best car. I want more money. I want a nicer lifestyle. I want all this other kind of stuff. Is it more likely that happened than me being given a gift that makes me different to everybody else?
Yeah, I mean, again, I'm not a genetic expert, but you know, like you say, it kind of, when you think of it like that, it does kind of make sense, because why would you be any different? Same mum, same dad. Why would you be any different? I guess, and it's like a really interesting way of looking at it. One thing we've not really talked about yet is kind of marketing, I suppose, and you know, still to this day, there are a lot of organizations out there that see sales as a department, marketing as a department, and the two should never cross. You know, the two should absolutely never cross. I've worked with marketing teams that kind of go, well, it's not working. Well, why isn't it working? Well, you sales guys, you're not following it up. You're not doing a great job. I've got salespeople that kind of go, well, marketing's shite. They're not putting it out to the right persona. We're not looking at our target audience. We're not, our marketing is not showing off the company and its ethos and vision in the right way. So where do you stand with like the sales and the marketing, and how important is it that the two kind of combine, I guess?
I think that one of the things that I say is that marketing beats mastery. And what I mean by that is, it's pretty self-explanatory, but for anyone that wants a bit of a definition on that or explanation on that, is that it doesn't make a difference how good you are at what you do. If no one knows who you are, then your skills are relevant. So, you know, you have to be a master marketer first. You know, like style beats substance initially, because there comes a time when you have to be able to back up what you're doing.
Yeah.
But there's a story that I often tell, which talks about the sales and the marketing as a cycle. And the story goes like this, Dave. So imagine that there's a circus coming to town.
Yeah.
And so you go down to the local showground and you put a sign up saying local circus coming to town. Circus coming to town. And you put it on the local showground. Well, that in its rawest form is advertising.
Yeah.
Now, if you take that same sign and pin it onto an elephant and you walk that elephant through the town, well, now that's promotion.
Yeah.
Now, if that same elephant walks through the mayor's flower bed, that's publicity.
Yeah.
And if the mayor laughs about it, that's public relations.
Yeah, great.
Now, as a result of all this, if all the people in the local village go to the circus, pay to get in, spend a load of money there, and have a great time, that's sales.
Yeah.
And if you've planned the entire thing, well, that's marketing.
Yeah.
And I think that we need to look at our business in that respect. Like, what are we doing in the advertising space, in the promotional space, in the PR space? How is that going to feed into the sales space? Because it's great to have a great sales strategy, but if you're not getting the leads, you can't close. And if you're not getting the leads, then there's nothing to close. So it has to work together. I don't think it's become more important to do so now. I think it's always had to be important.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting. Like, that's a great story. Actually, I'll have to make a note of that or watch that back and remember that one, because it is great. I think, you get companies like HubSpot, for example. They'll kind of, they again, American business, but they kind of, you'll use the word smarketing. So for them it is one, and it's very important. I think the interesting part is I've got I deal with marketing teams, marketing managers every single day, and it's interesting to see that nowadays they get a target, and I'm not talking about KPIs in terms of website hits and this, that, and the other, but in a lot of marketing roles that you see now, there's also an element of a sales target with that role as well. So, I guess, and I don't know how long that's, typically been kind of going on for, but it's interesting to see that kind of jointness, that collaboration is now coming through to the everyday marketing roles as well. There's a responsibility to generate revenue. Whereas years ago, and I'm talking, I don't know, 10, 15, 20 years ago, when you looked at the marketing, it was more the marketing strategy. It might have been launching a product. It was ways to get that, to kind of generate those leads. There wasn't, maybe I just didn't look for it. There wasn't really like a revenue target that went with it. It was more about driving people to a website or driving people to a phone number or whatever. And like I said, the interesting thing now is that joined up approach, if you like, between sales and marketing is really, really, really important. But again, you wouldn't be surprised, but there's so many organizations out there that kind of, I guess, by title or by they do marketing. They just probably don't see it as marketing. They'll have a sales team, but not a marketing team. But I think for me, it's really important that people do invest money in marketing. I forget the percentage. What's the percentage like, of turnover in terms of marketing? I forget what it is now, but you're meant to spend. What's the general rule?
They said 10%.
10%,
yeah. 10%.
But I imagine it's a lot less than that.
God, yeah. I bet it's less than half of that.
Yeah, no, it's good. It's interesting. In terms of like, obviously, I made a few notes before we started to make the call. It's interesting how conversations flow and kind of stuffs go out. But do you think that like, we've obviously got a lot of social channels and stuff now more than ever? We've got things like TikTok that are coming. I've never even used TikTok, by the way, but we've got TikTok, we've got Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, Pinterest. There's just tons of them. Yeah. Like, what would you, and I guess every company that you kind of either mentoring or even your own businesses, it's about picking what channel's right for your business. And there's no kind of right or wrong. But for you, where would you say the most interesting times are coming in terms of, like, for social selling, for want of a better word? Where would you advise people kind of put their efforts, really? What's kind of working well at the moment?
I think that you're right. Firstly, it's very much industry dependent. Like if you're selling to a particular audience of, I don't know, stay-at-home moms, then you're not going to find them on LinkedIn.
No,
for the most part, you're going to find them on Pinterest. Yeah. So it really, the answer to that lies within how well you know your audience. Yeah. Like because if you don't know your audience too well, then you're gonna, you can be working really hard in the wrong space.
Yes.
But the other answer is that, like, you should be building a presence and an audience in different areas as well, because if you put all your attention into, say, Instagram, and then all of a sudden a new law or legislation's passed and Instagram gets banned, and you've spent your time building 100,000 people who follow you on there, and all of a sudden that's gone and turned off overnight, then you're losing that side of the business as well. So it's important to start building omnipresence and, trying to find space in all the different areas where your audience is going to spend their time, but understand what they're going to the platform for. So you might find them same moms going to LinkedIn, but they're not going to LinkedIn for the same content as what they're going to Pinterest for.
Yeah.
So it's understanding why they use that platform. And you're the same. You probably use a handful of different platforms. You don't go to LinkedIn to consume the same content as you go to Instagram for.
Yeah.
So if you're going to try to market to me on Instagram with the same content that you're going to post onto LinkedIn, it's not going to hit the mark.
No. I think you're absolutely right, and it's kind of what I said earlier, where it's about understanding what's right for your organization, and not necessarily not always what's right for the customer, but what's right for your organization as well. Some brands, if you like, it might not be appropriate for them to be on. And again, I've never used TikTok, but I've seen TikTok videos and stuff. Some brands might not want to be associated with that kind of platform. So I think it's not only important to understand what platform's right for your customers and potential customers, it's about also what platform matches the vision, the ethos, the culture of the business that you actually work for as well. I think that's the interesting thing. I used to do a lot on Twitter, but I'll be honest, I ain't even logged on in months. I just fell out of love with it. I just found it not really effective anymore. And let's be honest, it has to be effective. There's no point spending and devoting time on social media just because it feels good or it's something that you should be doing. It really is. It's about getting results.
It's got to have an outcome attached to it.
Absolutely. And I think one of the, LinkedIn, I went through a period with LinkedIn a few years ago where wasn't really getting the responses for it. But now that is in the main the only channel that I use. It's had a bit of a comeback, if you like, whereas it might have lost a bit of impetus a few years ago. It's definitely come back. And for me personally, like Twitter and that kind of channel has kind of gone. But what's kind of working for you at the moment then? Are you where do you spend? I know you've had a few issues recently with one of the channels, Facebook, but with Facebook. But where do you kind of spend most of your budget and life?
I mean, out of all the space, email marketing.
Right.
Like for me, like that's the thing that produces the greatest results in terms of traffic. Pinterest, I get a hell of a lot of traffic to my site from Pinterest.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, lots of traffic. Facebook, I mean, love it or hate it, it's the place. It's the thing, and I do have an issue at the minute because my account's been hacked and I've lost my page, but that's another story. What we're trying to resolve. But I mean, the thing is, all these platforms drive traffic to my site. And I often share screenshots of my CRM system showing how many leads I've produced. So I get 40 to 70 leads every single month that come through my website, and that's from different, from Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, Pinterest, YouTube, like all the different places will all drive traffic. And if you get 2 leads from LinkedIn, then it's 2 leads that you didn't have before.
Yeah. And do you devote a bit of budget to that, John? So are you doing like pay-per-click and all that kind of stuff? Are you devoting budget to ads and stuff like that, or is it tends to be your own? Okay, right.
Yeah, well, Facebook and Instagram, yes. I've done some advertising on Pinterest and on Twitter, but I mean, Pinterest were better. Twitter, I got nothing, but I probably just didn't spend enough time to understand the platform.
Yeah.
But Pinterest did okay, but again, Facebook, Instagram for targeting and the cost to target, it's nothing comes close to it. We've never seen anything as powerful as that for targeting.
Yeah, no, it's good. I think one couple of final points really I just wanted to kind of mention was, like, obviously we're in this like COVID world, like we said before, not really sure whether we're going to be in lockdown. Is it a national lockdown? Everybody that I speak to, their business has changed. It's had to adapt. We've gone from working from working from the office to working from home to working back at the office to working a bit from home. It's so variable, and every business is different. And it's obviously had within certain instances quite an impact on people's mental health, physical health, some for the good. So I think when people have been in lockdown, they've taken to exercise, which is it's got to be a good thing.
Yep.
And how has like the world and your customer base and your business, have you seen any kind of major changes? Or for you, and if you have they been for the better, or has it not really changed your day-to-day work whatsoever?
For me, it's not changed massively. I'll tell you why though, because I've always been I've always heavily invested into tech.
Yeah.
For as long as I can remember. So I've always had online presence. I've always had some version of an online product, so whatever I've done, I've always tried to productize it as well.
Yeah.
To be able to reach more people. So that has not really affected me too much. What has affected me is the live events, so
Yes.
like literally from day one of me going into business as a coach, as a mentor, the thing that I started at as day one, and I've still stuck to all the way through is live events and seminars.
Right.
And I did that at the start, and I've done it every year there on out, and that's the thing that's really, really took the hit. So, the monthly workshops that I run, the Thrive workshops, completely stalled when this happened, and we tried to transition as quick as possible online, and but I think everything were going online at the same time, and I think people just got a bit fatigued.
Hard to cut through the noise, isn't it? That's the thing. There's a lot of traffic.
They were doing everything online. Well, all of a sudden, you've gone from having a space that wasn't very occupied, that we kind of owned, to all of a sudden everyone's online fighting for the same attention, and it's where they spend the time no more. And also everyone's in survival mode all of a sudden. So that no one's thinking about how can we thrive. People are thinking, what do we need to do to survive?
Yeah.
And so then the decision making changes, and everything they do changes, and so that the transition, the pivot, that I know some people don't like the word, it's being used a lot, but it is a pivot. The pivot, it was a hard pivot, and it was very difficult to be able to pull across. We lost so many casualties as a result of that from the platform. Which is devastating, because we put so much effort and time into it, and people were getting loads of mileage from this as well. But again, I'm fortunate that for the way that I've done things, like I said at the start, just then I've productized, I've moved online as like from as long as I can remember.
Yeah, sure. Do you think? I know you had your first your first live event in such a long time. Was it a week ago or 2 weeks ago? I can't remember now.
It was September 29th.
And that must have been the first event for what, 6 months?
6 months.
Maybe 6 months. Yeah. How good did it feel to kind of? Incredible. Well, how good did it feel for you? But equally, what kind of feedback and how good did it feel for the people that came along as well?
Absolutely incredible. I mean, for me, firstly, yes. I mean, I'm a people person. I need people around me. I love the energy that I get from being around people. I absolutely thrive on that myself. So yes, I loved every moment of that. But for the people as well, I think everybody's at a stage right now where they're just fed up of all the BS that's happening in the world.
Yeah.
They're just existing at the minute, and no one's living.
Yeah.
And I think that this gave them a purpose. They got out, and there were people who were actually saying to me, "Listen, even if the government were going to say no, we were coming." Like we're committed, and people would, and I think that's happening quite a lot in a lot of places right now. People's just fed up of being told that they need to just exist, and they want to get back and start rebuilding their livelihood and their business. The people loved it on the day. They, for some people, this is the first time they'd been out again for 6 months as well. We got some great speakers on. It was an absolutely incredible morning.
Yeah, that's good. Is there any kind of future events planned? Have you got anything else kind of planned in?
Yeah, another one this month. So the end of this month, October 27th, it's a Tuesday in Sheffield. Again, we're limited by space because we do have to make sure that we're social distance, and we are following the guidelines, which is fed to us by the venue as well. But again, got two incredible speakers. They're going to come and talk about the power of content marketing. So about how to build how to build local engaged audiences and how to create content that speaks to them directly. So two incredible speakers with a topic that's very topical, right now
it's
as
relevant.
well. Really relevant right now as well.
I think the thing I also say about content, and I've met some great content writers, is that it's not just about the content; it's about the context as well.
Of course.
And I know I kind of know the two people that I've seen it online actually, but so they're really good at what they do. And like I said, when we first started this call, I was on about expectation, and I said, look, if my expectation is that one person listens to this, I've done a great job. And if they've managed to stay on the whole bloody way through, my point is for anybody that is listening, and my expectation is really low, for anybody wanting to find out about that event, John, how do they do it?
I'll send a link. I mean, if they want to go to my website, they'll see under the event section of my site, which is joncovey.com. There's no H in the John, just JON. Joncovey.com. On the navigation at the top, there's one that says events. It's called Thrive. So there's details there about it. I can send a link over if you want to put this in the description.
That's cool. And John, one final thing is, and I'm going to kind of ask this question to everybody that hopefully I do chat with. And we just talked about an event there that you've got coming up. What does the future kind of hold for you really? I know you've got your events, but where do you I'm not going to ask you anything cheesy like where do you see yourself in 3 years or 5 years time, but in the short term, what's for John? What's happening with John?
So really, it's about really rebuilding Thrive because we was prior to this. I put a lot of attention into Thrive, and we were getting 40 people a month coming to the workshops, the events, the networking. And it was growing month on month. And the idea all along was that we wanted to branch this out into different locations, different hubs, effectively, to support different businesses throughout the UK. And that was well on track to do so.
Yeah.
Obviously, situations change, things happen. This is what it is. So for me, really, the immediate is about continuing to be able to support businesses, to help businesses. I think that the thing that I'm really passionate about, Dave, more than anything else, I suppose, in this space is that there's so many people who want to help people.
Yeah.
But not everyone's qualified to help people. And I don't mean in terms of academic qualifications. I mean in actual physical life experience.
Yes. Yeah.
And I think that, and I say this all the time, and we might have even said this in the past, and I say it with a lot of tongue in cheek, but there's some severity behind this as well. And the saying is that if you want to go and buy a Ferrari, you wouldn't really take advice from someone driving a Ford.
Yeah.
And that's not, again, it's a bit of a joke, a bit cheesy, but there's nothing wrong with Fords. But the reality is someone driving a Ford going to be able to tell you how to make enough money to be able to buy a Ferrari? Chances are maybe not.
Yeah, no, and I think and I think that falls in line with some stuff that we have spoke about in the past. And it's like you won't believe the amount of people out there that are sales mentors, sales trainers, sales coach, but they've never sold a thing in their life, And that don't mean to say that, going back to football, which often my stuff does go back to football, that don't mean to say that if you've never been a great football player, you can't be a fantastic football manager. But I can't think right now of many football managers that weren't good football players, if I'm being totally true. They probably are loads, but I can't think of one. And I guess it's around that same thing, isn't it? Why would you take advice from somebody that's never sold anything in order to sell?
Yeah, you wouldn't go and get a surgery from your next door neighbour, would you? Unless they happen to be a very competent surgeon.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But I think that the problem is, though, Dave, is that this world that we're living in right now is a very coach-driven world. Right now, everyone's a coach. We can get a coach for sleep. You get a coach for your food. You get a training coach. You get a mindset. There's a coach for literally everything right now. And I think that that's a good thing. But I think that coach is not always necessarily the right word, because the thing with a coach is that, yes, you can be a business coach without having a successful business or ever even running a business. But what you're going to do is you're going to coach people to be the best version of themselves.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's really where the coach side is. A mentor, though, is somebody that's built a business, maybe exited a business, done really well with your business, failed at business.
Yeah.
Because failure is the greatest lesson.
Yeah.
And so a mentor's probably a much better word to use for someone that's going to teach you how to do stuff.
Yeah.
And then you've got consultants. Consultants are people that you hire in to solve specific problems.
Yeah.
So, do you know, like there's a lot of play on words. There's a lot of things that's out there, but I think there's a lot of people who's really passionate about helping people, but they've not got anything to bring to the table other than a book that they've read.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. It's quite interesting that, like, probably a lot of stuff that you teach, in the same way that when I'm doing this and I'm getting under the skin of the sales team and I'm putting sales and marketing strategies in, I'm a very much kind of a roll my sleeves up, get stuck in. I would never put something in front of somebody that I wouldn't be prepared to do myself. And I guess, keeping it simple, when I'm working with a team, I go, how would I do it?
Yeah.
So how would I do it? How do I think I can get the results that I need to win business, to increase business, whatever the goal is? How would I do it? And then I'll test it and I'll trial it and I'll use my experience, and I just get them to do it exactly the same way. And I think you can only do that, and you can only speak with that confidence when you've actually done it. And I think that's the point. You know, I'm not saying people don't respect people that have never done it, but I think, you know, the one thing that any teams that I've managed, the one thing that they will never be able to come back to me on would be, why are you asking me to do that when you've never done it yourself, or you're not prepared to do it yourself? You know, even if I fail, they can never give me that part of it that goes, I'm not prepared to try. So,
mate, John, 100%. I mean, like one of my favorite quotes is from Michael Jordan,
right?
And I'm going to paraphrase slightly because I can't remember the exact numbers now, but it was something like, you know, in his lifetime, he's missed something like 2,000 shots, maybe more. I forget the exact numbers now. 26 times he's been entrusted to take the winning shot and he's missed.
Yeah.
He's failed in life over and over and over again, and that's what makes him successful.
Yes.
Now, I think I probably took that to heart in my early career because I started failing at a lot of things, and I think I probably took it too deep. But I think that at the same time, failure is being dubbed as a bad word as well, and I think that failure is we need to change that word just for feedback.
Yeah,
it shows us what we need to do, and life's got a funny way of doing that. You know, life will keep on teaching you the same lesson until you learn from it.
Yeah, and I did see that. That was on. I saw that on LinkedIn the other day. I can't remember the visual what it was, and somebody said exactly that. And it does. Them kind of little things do stick with you, don't they? So
yeah, totally.
It's good.
Definitely so.
Definitely. John, listen, it's been an absolute blast. It's been a privilege and an honor. And, you know, I don't even know how long we've been on this call for now, but maybe an hour and a half. But have you got anything that you just want to say before we kind of, you know, wrap this up?
I mean, the last thing really what I will say is like the kind of three areas that I specialize in and what I do is the mindset, is the selling, and the marketing. And these are three things, as we've just said then, these are things that I've not just read about and then started to talk about. These are things that I physically done. You know, I've got the mindset right. The amount of people that I see that are, you know, saying that they you know, they want to help people to personally develop, but they're not personally developed themselves.
Yes.
And so I think you have to come from a place, as you just said, you've tasted it, you've experienced it. So mindset, sales, and the marketing side. And so for anybody that's interested in that kind of stuff, or even certainly the marketing, we've spent some time on marketing. I've got a free webinar that runs every single day.
Yep.
Again, I can send you the link over to this, but if anyone's interested, it's joncovey.com/lead gen. And this is going to show you the stuff that I use to, like I mentioned earlier, reference that I get 40 to 70 leads a month through from my website. So if anyone is interested in wanting to jump onto that, it's a free webinar. You know, it's 60 minutes. So if they want to invest that time into it, and I think they'll get a lot of real good value from there.
Yeah, and I agree, and I think the key point for me there is it's tried, it's tested, and it works, and that's not like you say BS. That's you can evidence that, and I think that's like really important. So it's not pie in the sky numbers; it's physical and it's real. So brilliant, John. Thank you once again. Like I say, pleasure and a privilege, and you know, let's hope that my expectation in terms of numbers is going to be okay. But John, thank you very much.
Yeah,
Cheers.
it's been brilliant. Thanks.
Thank you. Bye bye.